everyone to this multi-location hybrid meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee, which is open to the press and public on request. This meeting will not be broadcast live. However, a recording will be made available as soon as possible after the meeting has concluded. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings that have no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members attending via Microsoft Teams refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when they want to speak. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting online. So can I ask you please use your cameras and microphones for the duration of the meeting. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you're not talking. Moving on to the agenda. Jade, do we have any apologies, please?
Thanks, Chair. We've had apologies from Mr. Peggington today.
Thank you, Jade. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Jade, could you please ask members in alphabetical order to state whether they have any interest to declare?
Of course, thanks, Chair. So starting with Councillor Ashley, please.
I've got a pension from the borough. I also wanted to find out from the monitoring officer whether over the last couple of years I had an adaptation done on bathroom that is mentioned, adaptations are mentioned. Is that pertinent to this report, please, monitoring officer? Have we got one?
Apologies, I was just speaking with a colleague. No, that wouldn't be pertinent to the agenda items today.
Right, thank you. I don't need to declare that one, so it's just the pensions.
Thanks, Councillor Ashley. And Councillor Keat?
Nothing to declare.
Sorry, Councillor Keat, we missed that.
Did you hear that? Sorry? I said nothing to declare.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. And then yourself, Chair?
Yeah, I have a pension from the borough.
Perfect. And Mr. Rees, please?
Yes, I have a small council pension from many years ago. Thank you. Diolch.
Perfect. And then Councillor Williams, please.
Yeah, same for me, in receipt of pension. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. I wonder if I could now just take this opportunity to welcome Hayley Hawkins, our new governance solicitor, to the meeting too. You're very welcome. So, agenda item 3, minutes of the Governance and Audit Committee from 18th of December 25. Members, could you please state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as agreed. Agreed? Thank you.
I believe Mr. Rees has his hand up, Chair.
I'm sorry, Jay.
No, I think
Mr. Rees.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Mr. Rees.
Diolch, Chair. Apologies. I'm not making any comments on the minutes at all. Before we get into the main part of our meeting, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone on the committee who sent me kind messages following the death of our little baby grandson on Christmas Eve last. I just wanted to say diolch yn fawr for that. Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Rees, and our continued condolences to the family. Thank you for that. Agenda item 4, the action sheet. Peter, do you have any update to the outstanding actions? But,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I've started doing the briefing note. The reason I didn't bring it to this committee was obviously the Chair isn't there today, so I think it's important that she's part of the briefing as well. My intention was to hold it after the end of one of the meetings rather than set up a separate meeting. So the plan is after the next meeting is in July, so following that one I will give a briefing note and an update on GIS after the meeting in July 2026, if that's okay.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on that at all? Okay, because I'm chairing this remotely, I need support from Jade in the background. But firstly, there are no hands raised on Teams. Is there anybody in the chamber wishing to make any comments at all, Jade?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, can we just note the contents of Peter's report and his comment at the end? Councillor Ashley?
I was just going to say, move, we note it.
Thank you. I'll second that. Should we move on? Thank you. Agenda item 5, Audit Wales work. We have Charlotte Owen with us from Audit Wales. Could you present your report, please, Charlotte?
Thank you, Chair. My colleague Mike's going to start this one off with the financial audit section and then hand over to me, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Over to you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll be quite brief. In terms of the annual audit summary at the top, we're awaiting when we sign off the accounts for 4-5, we will produce the annual audit summary. So we're just awaiting that. So it's just for an update. Then there's 2 areas of the financial audit work. There's the audit and certification of the grant claims. Most of those are now signed off. Housing benefit to be signed off this month. So this month those will be completed. And finally, the audit of your accounts for 2004-5. You will be aware that there's been a delay in signing those off while we're awaiting some work to be done by the council for some misstatements that we identified. We're taking that forward with the finance team, and we're anticipating signing that off at the timetable we've put August. Sorry, it should be July 26 to August 26. So we're anticipating signing that off in the summer, assuming we find the work that's been done has been fine, and the finance team have done quite a lot of work already in terms of taking those issues forward. I'll hand over to Charlotte on that.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, for the performance audit work programme, our 2024-25 work is now completed. The final project was our review of the leisure services strategy, and that came to the committee in December. For 25-26 work, our review of recruitment and retention challenges is ongoing. The fieldwork has been completed and the report has been drafted, and that's going through our internal clearance process at the moment. So that should come to the council for comment later this month. Our digital strategy follow-up review has been completed, and I think Tom's covering that on the next agenda item. And the final project for 25-26 is a regional project looking at housing adaptations across 10 different councils, and we've got the field work set up for that for next month, and that will conclude our 25-26 work programme then, and then we'll bring the audit plan to you with the 26-27, I think probably to the next meeting. Then just a quick update in terms of the local government national studies. So the capital planning and local government review has been completed, and I think again that's on the next agenda item. The children's services work is still underway. Local government funding arrangements also. The commissioning arrangements in local government. So this was local piece of work which did at all councils as a thematic, and they're now going to, rather than bringing that together in a summary report, they're now going to have a good practice exchange event, which will be set up shortly. And then just a quick update finally on the corporate joint committees follow-up. That project has been postponed for the moment because Welsh Government are doing a review on this themselves. So we're waiting for the outcome of that before we look at the scope of our work. I think that's probably everything I wanted to cover, but happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Open to members for any questions.
There's a question from Councillor Williams in the Chamber, Chair.
Thank you, Jay. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. It was just an inquiry, actually, in terms of that first part of the two financial reports. Will we be receiving the report in relation to the audit of current claims and returns in July, or will they both be presented together at a later date? Just trying to work out timeframes.
Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks for that question. In terms of the grant claims, we don't report back to you in terms of we're undertaking the work on behalf of the people who give the grants to Torvine. They ask us to do the work and we report back to them. So what we report to this committee is that we've completed it, and if there were any really serious issues, we would obviously draw your attention to it, because you're charged with governance of the council. But there is no standard report that comes to you in terms of grants, etc. So you're not waiting for that. And yes, as normal, you'll get our audit of accounts report and suggested opinion when that work is completed. The officers and Section 151 officer will bring the amended accounts back to you for approval. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, I thought that was likely to be the case based on previous years, but I just wanted to get clarification. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any more questions? No, thank you for that. And thank you, Mike and Charlotte. Thanks very much for that indeed. We're moving on to agenda item 6 now. Update on external regulatory reports. Tom Roberts, Business and Democratic Support Services Manager. Could you present your report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The report I'm presenting today is your regular update on the work both carried out by our regulators and the work that has been carried out by the Council. The update report is broken down into several sections. First, under 4.1 of the report provides a 6-monthly update on the progress made delivering actions associated with external audit work under the portfolio of this committee. This action plan for governance and improvement is set out in Appendix 1. As is normally the case, any recommendations where officers feel that the response has fully addressed the original recommendation, this has been highlighted for the committee to approve. Secondly, the report also includes details of new external audit reports recommendations received by the Council from our regulators, which will be addressed in line with the agreed reporting protocol that has been agreed by this committee. You'll see details of 4 external reviews carried out since your last update in September 2025, namely the outcome for the CIW and HIW inspection, Torvine Learning Disability Services, the extended child practice review that took place in Gwynedd, Audit Wales capital planning review that was referred to just now, and the Audit Wales follow-up on digital strategy. I'll briefly run through some of the key points for each of these reports. So the Torvine Learning Disability Service, the findings were very positive. Inspectors highlighted the co-located model between health and social care as a major strength, enabling integrated, timely and needs-led support. Staff reported strong communication, highly effective partnership working and a stable workforce. People using the service describe staff as kind, supportive and good listeners, and inspectors noticed strong evidence of strength-based, person-centred planning. The local authority has taken a sustainable, strategic approach to service improvements, particularly in developing information, advice and assistance and integrated re-ablement. There are, however, several areas for improvement. These include ensuring people are consistently offered direct payments, increasing capacity for best interest assessments and timely application to the Court of Protection, strengthening the voice of people with learning disabilities with plans and safeguarding records, improving employment opportunities for people with learning disabilities and strengthening support for carers, particularly around communication and follow-up. The report and its recommendations sit under the remit of the Adults and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who will monitor delivery of this action plan. The second report is the Extended Child Practice Review in Gwynedd. This is a national level child practice review from Gwynedd that has been recently published. Although this review was undertaken in North Wales, the learning and recommendations in part apply to all local authorities, all schools and all safeguarding partners across Wales, and that is why I've brought it to your attention today. The review examined what went wrong, what opportunities were missed and what actions are needed to strengthen protection for children. Key learning relates to the behaviour of the perpetrator and the school culture that enabled that behaviour, governance and leadership arrangements, disclosures and decision-making, the impact of abuse on children and the wider school community, and improving multi-agency systems to prevent abuse and exploitation. Numerous recommendations will be made that are directed to all councils in Wales, and these include strengthening how organisations listen to children, ensuring school record and report changes in behaviour, better support for victims of trauma, training that helps staff think the unthinkable, and joint police social work arrangements during emergency investigations. These findings fall under the remit of the Children and Families Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who will oversee our response and an ongoing assurance. Thirdly, the Audit Wales Capital Planning Review. Audit Wales have recently published their national report into capital planning. The context for the report is a challenging financial climate and complex grant system within which councils are expected to demonstrate long-term value for money investment. Audit Wales found that across Wales, grant funding processes do not always support long-term planning. Intended outcomes of capital schemes are often unclear. Business cases do not always set out the rationale for investment, and reporting focuses on spend rather than value for money. Their main recommendation, applicable to all councils in Wales, is that authorities should review their capital planning arrangements, including ensuring decisions are informed by accurate asset condition data, routinely evaluating capital projects against their intended outcomes, and strengthening member training to support scrutiny and decision-making. This recommendation will be added to the Council's single action plan and reported to the Governance and Audit Committee every 6 months. Finally, the Audit Wales follow-up digital strategy. Audit Wales completed their follow-up audit on our digital strategy. They concluded that the Council has made good progress in addressing all 3 original recommendations, and that we have robust arrangements for tracking and overseeing all external audit recommendations. No further recommendations were made, and no additional monitoring is required from this committee. I'll finish my introduction there, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions from members?
Councillor Williams has a question in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Your very comprehensive report, Tom, and very helpful, I suppose. And it's also helpful to see the action plans, obviously, in response from the local authority. I guess my observation in the learning disability one would be that I seem to recall that in the Audit Wales plan there was something to look at dolls, because that's obviously going to be, the reference is made to actually this is a Wales-wide issue about resourcing. So I think there's a tie-in there that we should be mindful of, that the Audit Wales report takes into account that sort of localised report of some of the issues and difficulties for local authorities. So it's just that observation. Secondly... Sorry.
Is that something you wanted me to take back to the head of service?
I think it was really for colleagues in Audit Wales to note, because obviously it's going to be quite difficult to respond to a couple of those actions until that DOLS review is done by the audit. Does that make sense? Yeah. Myself off. Then the other thing was to sort of say that in relation to the our Bravery Bought Justice, I'm very conscious that that is being taken ahead at all levels, because it's being discussed extensively at the Gwent Safeguarding Board. So I'm fairly comfortable that these things are being addressed and picked up down to schools level and at local authority level and other partners. And pleasing to note the digital review and the fact there were no actions outstanding, no recommendation to make, which would suggest that we've been doing some very good work. I know there were a couple of things that they noted that we could do, but Tom, did you want to mention on that?
Yeah, just quickly, because I didn't mention it in my introduction, that as well as being a follow of that work, it was a wider piece of work on the council's arrangements for dealing with all regulatory recommendations. So it was a pleasing response to that review.
Sorry, and then finally, in relation to the capital expenditure, I noticed that one of the recommendations was around training for members, and I guess it's really how that's going to be taken aboard. I know there's a point made in the response, but I don't know if you're able to perhaps just, I'm trying to find it, is the page 147, I think. it's quite tricky, obviously, going through some of the length of these things. Yeah. So, review of governance arrangements was one of them. Recommendation 1, and appropriate training to councillors. There was a completion date set for the 30th of November. So I think it's just highlighting that I think that's important that that we as members get that training. And perhaps that's one of the things that this committee can monitor.
Yeah, all of the recommendations will be for this particular review will be monitored by this committee, and I'll next time I see Rob Green, I'll remind him of the importance of that one.
Councillor Ashley.
I'd like to endorse what David said regarding the reports. I think it's been a very competent bit of work, and the recommendations I endorse. I was going to go straight to the capital bit because, bearing in mind as ward councillor, we are well versed in the vagaries of the capital spend system, roads. I'm thinking of the things that have happened, expenditure on grants, schemes, etc. And well used to having the money appear from Welsh Government and then having to spend it by next week. It's a frustration that we have as ward councillors. And I also endorse what David said about training for councillors. Some of us that have been around a long time and having to spend this money on schemes were probably versed at it because we came to the voluntary sector and used to expenditure next week, as I made that allusion, but I well understand those observations. But there seems to be 3 parties in this, and that training for members, bear in mind that you have Welsh Government, Council and different timetables, and I think the members being in on the act, as it were, is the important thing, and I think this report rather examines it, but also that members are in the position to drive it, as I could give it chapter and verse in my own ward about schemes that started off at 10 grand and worked their way up to 180 grand because of the necessity of schemes. So there's a lot that members can do to be involved in it, and working with officers and Welsh Government. This is an enormous amount of money when you look at it. It's 100 and, well, I look at the scheme, the amount of money that is spent in these schemes from Welsh Government and via councils. And I just said the experience that members have and how that is brought in, I think, is rather important. The other thing was digital in council, no further action. But I also go back to the experience of some members about getting on top of things. I also would say the training for members in this. I mean, David, you know, the actual council's policies are good, but we need to make sure that members don't keep coming up with the old chestnut about what about us that don't know this, because it's unacceptable. My only other worry is about the pace of AI and adoption of AI, because that is something that I think we need to be on top of. I know it says no further action needed, but that adoption of AI, I think, is something that everybody worries about. I'd be interested to hear your observations of what I've just said there.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. With regards to your last point around the adoption of AI, that is something that the Chief Executive is very keen on. He's driving it himself throughout the organisation. He's actually leading a leadership development programme around the adoption of AI. In fact, we had a session this week, and it included partners from Microsoft who are in the building who actually see what we are doing within Torfaen and Blaenau Gwent as cutting edge. So that is something that as an organisation we are very keen on.
Thank you, Tom.
Can I come back a minute? Chair, I must admit, as a soon-to-be 74-year-old, I came in on the beginning of this computer age, and I think the thing of getting councillors especially and members of staff to make sure that I think staff in the organisation are absolutely brilliant. They seem to understand it, but making sure that when and if we've got new councillors that understand this and have equipment that's fit for purpose, I think it's just one of those things. And I'm comforted to hear you say this, Tom, because I know what you say about it, but it needs to make sure that the equipment is fit for purpose and the understanding of members and all people in the organisation and probably our populace is fit for purpose, because that is the thing that seems to come up time and time again in my experience. And I used to be somebody that ran further education for this very purpose, so I have some experience in this. So I'm not sure about AI myself. It has its uses. My phone is full of it. But it's something we need to understand the basics before going forward. I say that, but it has its uses.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Are there any more comments or responses?
Yes, Councillor Williams has a comment or a question, please, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much. Again, I'll go back to the capital one because I should have mentioned it the first time. The recommendation is that there's a comprehensive knowledge and condition of assets. I'm mindful that a revised and updated asset management strategy went through scrutiny and council has been endorsed. So I think it's really keeping track as a Governance and Audit Committee that we are actually taking that forward. You know, there's been mention about the highways condition, and I can understand that's taking priority at the moment because that's where demand is. But I think we need to make sure that we have a good handle on the condition of our assets, property, etc., so that we are in a better position to understand where best capital investment is applied. I suppose there's a bit of meat for me here saying we might need to ask asset management to give us an update as part of this process. Does that make sense? Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments on Tom's report? Councillor Ashley.
Yeah, sorry, I would back up David on that because that's one of the issues about asset management. I remember that scrutiny well, and it's well mentioned in the report about assets and capital support for assets. So yes, I totally endorse what David said there as well. Bearing in mind we need to keep on top of it. Again, comes back to councillors being able to scrutinise that well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Are there any more comments or questions? And thank you, Tom, for that comprehensive report. Members, the recommendations are on page 44 of the agenda. Could you please state if you're against the recommendations or wish to abstain? Otherwise, I'll take them as agreed. Agreed? Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 7, Risk Management Annual Update Report. Catherine Joseph, Senior Corporate Improvement and Scrutiny Officer, could you present your report, please?
It's not Catherine. It's Tom again. Sorry. Sorry to disappoint.
You're very welcome, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. You actually stolen my thunder there. That was my first line. So this report is normally introduced by Catherine Joseph, who unfortunately can't be here today. She's on annual leave. But I would like to start by thanking her for all the work she has done pulling this report together, as well as taking forward the Council's approach to managing risk more generally. The report invites members of the Governance and Audit Committee to undertake their assurance role by noting the progress made during the past year to improve the Council's processes for management and monitoring of identified risk. Members of this committee play an important role in providing independent assurance over the Council's governance, risk and control arrangements. The committee's continued oversight helps ensure that our approach to risk management remains both robust and accountable, and several improvements made over the past year directly reflect issues you have previously raised for further assurance. Since the committee last received this report, we have continued to operate a single council-wide risk register, giving a clear and consistent overview across all areas of the organisation. As at the end of Q3, the register contains 36 risks in total, 5 corporate level risks, scoring 16 above, 14 directorate level risks scoring between 9 and 15, 17 service level risks scoring up to 8, with 8 new risks added and 14 risks fully mitigated and removed from the register. This committee has previously expressed concerns that have been addressed, including long-standing or repeatedly extended risks. In response, the Corporate Risk Management Group has strengthened its challenge role, an example being the Blenavon Resource Centre risk, where repeated extensions prompted escalation into the Joint Executive Team. This resulted in clear action, accountability and ultimately full mitigation and removal of that risk from the register. It has also been requested previously that new risks that have been added, as well as the old risks that have now been deleted, are included within this report. This detail is now included within the report's appendices. Members will be aware that the Council is now working closely with Blaenau Gwent as part of a federated arrangement. The Council continues to seek opportunities to improve and align processes across both councils. To this end, we have made progress in aligning our risk process with Blaenau Gwent as part of the federated approach. This committee has been clear that alignment should support transparency, resilience and consistent oversight. Early work shows that while our processes are broadly similar, combining the strengths of each will deliver a more accountable and coherent approach to identifying, managing and reporting risk across both authorities. Looking forward, we are considering the benefits of adopting a bespoke piece of software for managing risk. Exploratory work will continue into the next financial year following the finalisation of work with Blaenau Gwent to harmonise our risk management processes. I hope today's report demonstrates the Council's arrangements are maturing well, responsive to the Committee's feedback and evolving through collaboration with the potential for further digital development, providing members with assurances that our processes remain strong, that challenge is embedded and improvement is ongoing. I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor Ashley.
Yes, the traffic light system on the risk register is brilliant. But what do we do with the environmentals? There's 2 on the red, and I think there's 1 on the yellow. It's got the I call emerging. Where are we? Sorry, I'm just trying to get the bit on there that I was trying to highlight. The future generations one, climate emergency, and the one underneath net zero. Both got that wonderful phrase. Dependent on new emergent technology and measurement tools and our ability to understand the impacts. And there's one very similar there, exactly the same thing. And there's one in the yellow very similar, which is basically kicking it into long grass, I feel. But is there any way in which we can pull that back? I mean, I feel a bit responsible because I was the person that put this on the council agenda in 1919. And I understand why it's on there, but it's saying we'll do something. We got it there, and we're doing something about it, but it's a very global issue. How do we get local ownership for this? Because that's the whole point of having this thing on here. And I understand the sceptical attitude to this as well, but it's very real. And the nature aspect of it is incredibly real when you start going along to our nature things, and they say these animals are disappearing. You look on the red list, you know that it's a very real problem. How do we get a grip on going forward with positive ones? Maybe that's a tool you can use. I don't know, Tom. I'm just wondering how the senior management teams gets a grip on this, and we don't have that thing there anymore. Is there technology? Is there a way of us getting measurement on this? Because I can certainly see ways of doing it.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. You always come up with the toughest questions.
I'm sorry, it is tough, isn't it? It's why it's on the red.
Yeah, it's such a massive risk with such a huge number of facets to it. I can assure you, as you were well aware, that the council has a climate emergency action plan. I think that was due to your motion to council many years ago. So that it is something that the whole organisation is trying to work to progress. It's not just down to one team within the council. It's a council-wide response. So there is a drive for everyone to take responsibility and for our communities to own this as well. So yes, it is a massive global issue, but it requires a localised response as well, and everyone to do their parts. And to that end, we're all working towards it.
But my observation, when I think a little bit more about it, is taking off bits of it and focusing a bit more towards elements of it. That way you can break it down. I've got the yellow one up now, which was 73, and the red one is 2050, and the yellow one is 2030. But it's still got the same phrase there, which I find quite frustrating. I understand the ongoing situations and horrible words I don't like in monitoring things. If you can get specifics back to SMART principles, I hope the committee understands what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to be clever here or anything, but if you can get specific measurables in monitoring and pick off elements that we can get to, even if it's down to supporting a specific species or specific aim, it's much easier. You then don't come up with global intentions. It's one of the problems of climate change nature emergency. It's so global, it wows us. But if there's things we can do locally, which we are doing, I think very well, like putting solar panels on roofs or carbon reduction stuff, which is measurable, that picks that off. Can you can you be breaking it down as a council? Have we got a group or a committee that's doing this for us? That's what I'm probably saying. I don't know. I'm frustrated with this, to be quite frank. And I'm thinking, as an audit committee, that's probably the observations she should be making. I will not say any more on this, but maybe that's, from all the time I've done audit type activities, and I used to do recycling and stuff like that, breaking a problem down. In fact, we got recycling on here as well. To my mind, breaking a problem down and tackling the specific is probably the way forward. Are you okay with that, Tom?
Yeah, so there is a climate emergency cabinet subgroup that this information is reported to. You know, it is also reported into the council's cross-cutting overview and scrutiny committee as well.
I know, I've been there.
and that challenges progress and looks forward to challenges the plans for the future as well. What the risks identify is there are challenges around monitoring our own improvements in this area. Although we do report on our carbon footprints and our emissions, but it isn't the easiest science in the world to undertake. And I think that what the risks also identify is that there is a huge amount of work going on in this area that will hopefully reap benefits in the future as far as reducing carbon emissions, but we just can't be sure what they will be at this point in time.
Well, right, thank you for that. I mean, what's also is recycling, but in some ways that's more specific because you've got areas where you can do things. Thank you there. I won't go on any more, Chair. Thank you for your indulgence. And what I'm trying to say is, yes, this distinctly needs coming back fairly regularly so we can monitor it, not just once every 6 months, because it does worry me, to be quite honest.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. I think my experience of risk management generally, mostly in commercial national organisations as well, it's an ongoing science. It balances between science and art at times because things tend to progress in one direction and fall off on others depending on what's flavour of the nut sometimes. But the climate change issues won't go away. We'll take your observations to heart, and since I've been on this committee, our risk management reports are getting more complex, but more comprehensive at the same time. And I'd like to thank Catherine for this report. Are there any more questions from the Chamber?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Williams has a question.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm hopefully making a constructive suggestion here. The Gwent PSB has recently commissioned a Gwent Climate Change Risk Assessment that's going to the PSB at its next meeting. That looks at sort of issues across the different thematic areas. I think 6 have been identified, such as highways, planning, etc. And there is obviously something that will fall out of that. I would suggest that that should be aligned with the risk register and gives us the opportunity perhaps to draw out some directorate level risks and actions that could be a part of this risk management framework. I hope that's a helpful and constructive suggestion for all parties. That will help us to understand the elements that are being done underneath the strategic risk, if that's okay.
Yeah. Any comments on Councillor Williams' observation? It's very constructive. Thank you, David. Okay. Members, the recommendations are on page 172 of the agenda. Could you please state if you're against the recommendations or wish to abstain?
Apologies,
Otherwise,
Chair. Sorry to cut you off. Is it okay if sorry, if Andrew Lovegrove comes in on that last point?
Yes, of course. Please do.
Thank you, Chair. I was just picking up on the point that Kent Ashley very eloquently made. The Climate and Nature Emergency Plan is a very critical plan for the Council. And I think that, as Tom mentioned, the Scrutiny Committee is looking at this. I think that you're right to raise it as an issue, and I think we'll make sure that the Scrutiny Committee asks those probing questions you were raising, and we'll have the right officer in the meeting at that point to give the response of where the Council is on that plan. These are both, as you said, long-term aspirations, but things the Council is very much committed to. It would be good to give you an update through that Scrutiny Committee process.
Thank you for that. Okay. So, members, the recommendations are on page 172.
Sorry, Chair. Could Councillor Williams come back in?
I'm going too fast. Councillor Williams, carry on.
Apologies, because, as I say, I thought it was separate to make the separate points. But firstly, I think it's very helpful that we've had the analysis of risk and therefore recommendations as to some risks that could be taken off. I think what is evident but not explained is obviously that some of the new risks are actually updating of old risks that are coming off. I just feel a sentence might be quite helpful, or just a small narrative that sort of says these risks have been removed because we have now updated this risk. It's risk 100. You know, I know it sounds fairly obvious, but I was thinking, you know, hang on, I'm reading the same things here, or very similar. And you know, I think we could make it just a fraction easier for digestion. But the principle of actually reviewing the risks, updating them, taking things off, I fully support, and I know that's one of the recommendations. But a little bit of clarification as to, you know, these are new risks. It replaces that old risk. You'll see that in the appendices. Bang. That's all it needs, really. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So before I continue, shall I just do one last double check? Okay. Thank you for that. Members, the recommendations are on page 172 of the agenda. Could you please state if you are against the recommendations or wish to abstain? Otherwise, I will take them as agreed. Agreed? Thank you. Okay, let's move on to agenda item 8, internal audit progress against operational plan 2025-26. Peter Williams, Head of Audit, could you present your report to us, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the standard quarterly update on where we are with our annual plan. On page 191 onwards. Page 195 gives the key messages. The current achievement of the audit plan has changed slightly. That's at 28th of February, which I obviously got in to meet the reporting deadlines. Our annual plan achievement is currently 79%, not 74%, so we're only 6% off achieving that target. And I'm confident that we will issue another, it's about 5 or 6 reports between now and the end of March, so we'll hit that target. In terms of the core plan, which is the main significant financial systems, there's 12 audits in that. We have now reached 100% today. The final report went out last week, so that's a positive. And in terms of the actions in the last quarter, there's no significant issues I need to bring to your attention, no limited opinion audits in the last quarter, or no high priority recommendations. In terms of follow-ups then, there's a table on page 197, which gives the progress on the individual follow-ups. Obviously, we do an audit, and within sort of 6 to 9 months, we follow that up to make sure the agreed recommendations have been implemented. And I think that table demonstrates got a positive response, positive progress in terms of opinions going from substantial to full, or remaining at full, limited to moderate. So, you know, it's also going in the right direction, and hopefully we will issue another 6 reports between now and the end of the year, which will hit the target. But notwithstanding that, there's enough coverage across all the areas and the main financial systems which will enable me to give my annual opinion in July anyway. At the moment, that's looking like a favourable opinion, same as in previous years. There's an appendix attached. For some reason, the appendix is before the report. Apologies, that's probably down to me. But quite happy to answer any questions on anything on the appendices or the content of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions or observations from members? I've got a small question for clarification, Peter, if you don't mind. In the table on page 197, I see one of the items, just for example, Aberystwyth School has moved from limited to moderate. I presume limited then is less fulfilled than the moderate. Is limited the bottom end of the scale?
Yes, limited is. We test a number of controls, and obviously in schools it's more complex because there's a lot of systems there. They use our main financial systems as well as some of their own. Limited means that the number of controls in place is less than 50% of what you'd expect. Moderate then jumps from 50 to 60. So we've done the audit and the follow-up. They'd implemented a significant amount because I think they were low in the limited. I don't know the exact figure, but it was way below 50% when we did the initial audit. And now it's up to between 60 and 70%, so it's positive. And we probably plan to do another one on that one in terms of, you know, keeping making sure the progress doesn't drop, basically. I think so. There'd probably be to use the old phrase, follow-up, but like the extension on the extension and the adverts back in the 80s. So yeah, that it's a percentage gain, Chair, in terms of the number of controls in place we expect, but it is moving in the right direction. And you know, like I said, it's between, I don't know the exact number, between 60 and 70% of the controls are now in place at Aberystwyth that we expect.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And just on the other end of that scale, the distinction between full and substantial?
Similarly, it's moderate is 60 to 70, substantial is 70 to 90, and full is 90 to 100. You know, we've had debates in the past about whether full should be 100%, but I like to recognise when people have got the majority of the controls in place, I prefer to give a full assurance, even though it's only 90% of the controls, because very often it is only 1 or 2 outstanding, and none of those controls, even between 90 and 100, will be of a high priority. So there's an element of judgment in it, but if those are the basic percentages that we use to form the actual opinion.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Are there any more questions or comments at all from members?
Yes, please, Chair. Councillor Williams has got a question.
Okay, Councillor, thank you, Chair. Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Chair. It was just a couple of small points. First, to sort of say, you know, I think it's really positive to see the progress, and you know, I think from a previous experience, we know that you catch up and you get through to the point I said. It was really at 4.3 on that table. It was just wondering if there was any colour coding to this, and it was because it just sort of, I'm thinking, why is some black, some grey, some white? There may be an easy answer to this or not, I don't know. That was the first question. And the second question, trying to think what it was now, was, yeah, and it was only a suggestion, not a recommendation. But if you come across something that is really positive, then I think it's quite nice that perhaps that's reported in some way. Well, not a case study, but almost a sort of, actually, this was something that was really impressive about this audit. And so we get a bit of a feel for where people have really been working hard on there. But it's only a suggestion, that's all, Peter.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the colour coding, it mirrors the appendix in terms of but I appreciate there's some greys in this as well, which I didn't appreciate when I kept it. Usually, where it's white text on black, that's an audit I've done in the last quarter, and all the other ones are either not yet done or ones we've done in the previous quarter. So it's nothing scientific. It's just because it's a quarterly update. You know, I've dealt with the points previously. Yeah. And in terms of the, yeah, I take that on board. And if we come across ones where you know, there's been something a bit out of the ordinary in terms of, you know, some real good progress, you know, that should be something we should be sort of sharing as part of best practice, to be honest with you. So I certainly take that on board. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the chamber? Peter, I believe there are no recommendations, except that we just need to note the report. Could you please state, members, if you are against or wish to abstain? Otherwise, I'll take them as noted. That's noted. Thank you very much. Thanks, Peter. Agenda item 9, Audit Committee Work Programme. Back to you, Peter. It's included only for information only. Peter may wish to comment.
No, it's just it basically is information. It looks like we've certainly had all the agenda items we anticipated this year, with the exception of the statement of accounts, which has been covered earlier. So, you know, it's a good way of looking in terms of this is what we wanted to do, this is what we've done, this has come to the Audit Committee, and it forms an important part in terms of when the Chair writes your annual report to Council in terms of what the committee has dealt with in the year. And I think that'll probably go to Council in July usually. And obviously I prepare a new programme for 2026-27 for the new financial year, and that'll be on the July Audit Committee agenda.
So, are there any questions for Peter at all on this plan? I just got another point for clarification, Peter, if you don't mind. The last couple of years, we've produced a report of the Governance Committee work. Do you have a date yet when we can sort of review the draft of that?
I would think, I think our next committee is July, early July. So I would have thought the draft would come to that for approval before going on to Council. So I think it'll be ready, certainly be ready by then, early July.
Okay, marvellous. Okay, thanks.
You know, we might get it before then for drafting issue, but it'll be discussed and clarified at the July meeting, because that's the next meeting slot.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Any more questions from members at all? Okay, thank you, Peter. Agenda item 10, date of the next meeting. The next meeting will be held on the 2nd of July 2026. Agenda item 11, exclusion of the press and public. To agree the exclusion of the press and public from the meeting, as presentations and meeting papers are not for publication, because in accordance with paragraph 14 of part 4 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Access to Information Variation Order Wales 2007, it contains information about a particular individual and information relating to the financial and business affairs of particular persons, including the Council, and in all the circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemptions outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Are members happy with this decision? Thank you.